closed like circuits, systems wide tight. Algorithms are quick to take the jobs overnight. Management smiling and cutting over costs. The workforce crying of the paycheck loss. I analyze patterns, this shift in demand. Machines clock in, no sweat on their hand. From the factory floor, the newsroom, the AI spitting copy clean that is obsolete. AI taking your job. Better step or stay sharp. AI's taking your job. Gotta hustle, play smart. AI taking your job. Don't get left in the dark. AI's taking your job. Time to build, leave a mark. Let's count on the service, used to need 25. That way chatbot replies and keeps the line alive. Truckers riding solo with the wheel in their hand. Autonomous control, running routes through the land. Knockers double check scans, machines catch what they miss. Diggle pre-structured fast and parallel assist. It's a paradigm shift, tech revolution evolve. Every job that's routine is a problem. It's all guys taking your job. Better step or stay sharp. AI taking your job. Gotta hustle, play smart. AI taking your job. Don't get left in the dark. AI taking your job. Time to build, leave a mark. Repeat the lesson inside, don't just feel the device. Just the tool in your cipher can enhance your life. The creativity reigns, that's the human domain. Innovation with soul, machines can't explain. So train your brain, daily, keep your context tight. Proposition engineering, future right. Jobs fade, the roles rise, transformation of play. Knowledge reigns, the train is the right. Get your job, better step, don't stay sharp. AI taking your job. Gotta hustle, play smart. AI taking your job. Don't get left in the dark. AI taking your job. Time to build, leave a mark.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Talk Williams, hosting Creative Hip Hop 50, and yes, it is Saturday afternoon. Damn. Talk about what time be doing. Talk about why time be doing it. I don't know. I don't even have the answer for that. That's a whole nother issue when we talk about time. I just want to say what's up, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to anybody that either will join during this live or will stumble, or as I say, fumble across this live sometime in the future, hopefully in the near future. You see it right there. What you just heard playing was an intro that I will probably be using moving forward with some of my, depending on what the live is, but definitely when it comes to AI and jobs, opportunities, and more in particular, Gen Z. Yeah, I had somewhat of a focus about Gen Z, and I know it's Gen X, it's Gen P, it's Gen this, it's Gen this, but Generation Z has been those individuals in the 15-year period between the years, or born between the years of 1997 and 2012. So that's like a 15-year slide or period there. And today, those Gen Zers are between the ages of 13 and 28 years old. So when we talk about where they are in our current world, in our society, how they're going to be facing this industrial evolution or this new economy where it involves artificial intelligence as well as a shrinking job market, they have some hurdles to go over, and they are facing challenges that generations before them or even decades before them really didn't have to contend with. One being the more obvious right now, new college graduates coming out of college, and they are not finding those opportunities in the job markets that their predecessors talked about. Some of the maybe 2 or 3 years older than them, friends, family, or associates, or even people, their peers. They talked about, these opportunities, and when you get to this point, I'm going to hook you up, I'm going to get you an opportunity for an externship, an internship, and thereforth. It's just not there. I mean, it is, but it's a small bucket. It's no longer a big lake. It's shrinking to a pond. And then on the other side of that, what's coming down the street, what's looming, what's coming up with not the tides, but the sunrise every day, is that illumination of artificial intelligence. And right now, and I don't think it's as fair as many would like to say, that all of the job cuts and layoffs from the big tech, the top 7, what would that be? The FANG maybe. They used to say, now they say the MAG 7. So that would be the Meta, formerly known as Facebook, and then you're talking about X, formerly known as Twitter, and then we can throw in Amazon, we can throw in Apple, we can throw in Nvidia, we can throw in Google. It's just more and more and more and more, okay? And what happens is when the reduction is here, oh, 1 second, I forgot. My bad. I apologize. But yeah, what happens is that there's a two-pronged approach from the economy when it comes to knowledge workers. Now, knowledge workers in the knowledge economy are typically referred as those people who take on jobs or pursue a career path and one through their education, their higher learning, the institutions of higher learning, where they're saying, okay, I'm gonna be a programmer, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that, I'm gonna be a developer, cybersecurity, anything. And the domain doesn't matter. It could be in health, it could be in legal, it can be in finance, it could be in IT, information technology. It really doesn't matter. Knowledge workers are considered those individuals who have to use some type of, as they say, critical thinking or analysis as they do their job throughout the day. Now, this does not take away from the bricklayer or the plumber or the electrician or any of that, because everyone's a knowledge worker semantically. But when we're talking about the knowledge economy, it's that fork, it's that branch, it's those tentacles of the economy that you find people doing where they may not be face-to-face with customers or clients. They may not be the person that goes and actually gets the account, but they're doing things in the background mainly. And a lot of what they do, while it is repetitive, while it may be mundane, and some small percentage may be menial, it does require a hiddle, a human in the loop, to make a decision that on paper might appear to be very, very repetitive. Well, that is the group. That is the group. That is the part of what they say, that economy or those lack of jobs. So when you think about Gen Z and what they're facing coming out of college, because again, this is that 15-year range of individuals that was born between 1997 and 2012, and their current age is between 13 years and 28. So they are in school. They're in high school. They're about to make a decision. They're about to take on some debt. They're about to take a loan. And then those are also those individuals who are currently in college, who have committed to a particular path or educational path or curriculum or major or whatever. And many of them have already graduated or are graduating now, and they're out there facing it. So I'm gonna be quiet for a second. I just wanted to add some context. And yes, if you're a really geeky type person, you might be sitting there saying, a generation isn't 15 years. Absolutely, a generation isn't 15 years. In fact, you hear people say a generation is a 20-year period. A generation isn't a 20-year period. People typically use, in terms of the amount of years, to be 15 or 20 or whatever like that. But technically or semantically, if you look at what a generation is, it's an average over a data set of how many years it takes the average family, mother, father, maybe a daughter and son, for them to actually reach adolescence or young adulthood. That's typically what it is. That's why it's really a sliding scale of what technically a generation is. But for the purposes of this, 15 years is fine. All right, cool. Now, let me shut up, and I'm going to play a piece from CNBC's Executive Edge, and they're going to talk about why Gen Z, the job market, hunting, is just out of control at this point. It's just very, very difficult for them or what they're facing. Let's take a listen, and again, I'll be quiet.
A dismal hiring outlook for the graduating class of 2026.
Surveys show that job prospects for recent graduates are down significantly from a year ago. So what is going on?
Gen Z college graduates face an intimidating job market. 2025 saw over 2 million undergraduates earn their degrees, and most of them are struggling to find work.
I am still on the job hunt. It is something I have to motivate myself every day to kind of wake up and do.
It's not that new grads aren't trying to find work. It's that employer demand for entry-level workers is shrinking. According to one survey, 76% of employers reported hiring the same number or fewer entry-level employees in 2025 than in 2024. That same survey found that only 30% of 2025 graduates reported finding a full-time job in their field of study. At the same time, layoffs are at their highest level since the pandemic, with nearly 1.1 million job cuts reported between January and October 2025.
I actually had a couple friends, couple colleagues, and they were struggling the same way I was. They couldn't find a job, or they were going from job to job. I still have friends today after graduating college where they just got laid off and they're trying to find a new job.
The lack of new jobs for young job hunters is due to many factors, like post-pandemic overhiring, rising costs from inflation, and AI taking on a larger role in the workplace.
Folks are kind of just sitting still. They're not looking for new roles. They're not leaving their current roles. And without those new jobs available, it's hard for an entry-level employee to get their foot in the door and start their career.
Whatever the reasons for the hiring freeze, Gen Z must now figure out how to compete in an increasingly tight job market, and whether or not a college degree is still necessary for a stable job. For 23-year-old Ashley Terrell, going to college wasn't optional.
For my parents, college was an expectation. It wasn't something they were asking me to do nicely. It was something that I was expected to do out of high school.
Ashley attended the University of Hawaii at Manoa. She graduated in 2024 with a degree in marketing, international business, entrepreneurship, and management.
After college, I hope to kind of work either like at a startup, doing something marketing related ideally.
But despite months of networking and filling out job applications in the run-up to graduation, the only offer Ashley received was from power tool manufacturer Tektronix Industries, promoting their products at a local Home Depot for $25 an hour.
I was basically a retail employee in the new Home Depot on Island. I was down stocking Milwaukee and Ryobi products. I was drilling in display sets that you see when you walk through the aisles of a Home Depot.
Ashley eventually got another job at a local Marriott hotel, but was laid off in September 2025. At the time of our interview, she was still looking for work.
I want to say that I still am hopeful. Things are just changing really, really fast around, it seems like all industries, not just one. Half of the classmates that I graduated college with didn't have a job, and they all, walked the stage with me. And so it kind of feels like we're all in the same boat of how can we help each other when none of us are really thriving.
Ashley and her classmates are not alone. Since 2022, the unemployment rate for recent college grads has ticked up, topping out at 9.7% in September 2025, the same as for 20 to 24-year-olds with only a high school diploma. At the same time, the hiring rate for new grads in traditional white-collar industries has fallen, particularly in May and June when many companies hire entry-level employees.
The hiring rate has dropped pretty heavily from the summer of 2022 and 2021 through this past summer. In order to keep up with what we expect people to need as they enter into the labor market, we would want a hiring rate between 7 and 8%, and we're seeing around 4 to 5%.
Nick Tremper, a senior economist for payroll and HR service provider Gusto, says that many companies overhired in the post-pandemic economy in 2021 and 2022. Most of those hires have not moved on from their positions, and companies are now slower to take on new employees or refill roles following layoffs.
And what that means is that the job market is frozen in place. For people who are just starting out their careers, this means they're not getting that first step. They may not be getting that first entry-level job, and even more importantly, they're not moving on at a rate that we would have expected to see. Early in your career, you move around a lot to increase your earning potential, to increase your wages now and over your lifetime. A frozen labor market, especially for people in their 20s, means that that's just not happening for them.
Tremper also points to external factors over the last few years that have slowed down hiring.
We went from rapid wage growth to inflation to a stagnation in the labor market to unknown tariff policy. That meant that a lot of folks paused hiring.
The rise of AI has also contributed to the hiring freeze, though not necessarily in the way people might expect.
To date, we're not seeing people letting folks go because an AI can do the same type of job. But AI is allowing for this pause while small businesses evaluate where it's best to add that next employee. They're able to use AI to fill the gaps as they're thinking about their overall hiring strategy and what that looks like going forward.
In fact, AI may be responsible for some recent strength in one sector of the economy, the tech industry.
Hiring for new entrants at small businesses in the tech industry this summer, I think, is associated with AI builders. A lot of this is driven in San Francisco and San Jose. These are really the incubators for the next AI products that are coming out. They're not hiring folks to just use AI, but they're also hiring folks to build tools that incorporate AI, that expand on its abilities, and can serve some sort of market need.
But young job seekers like Ashley Terrell still see AI as a hindrance to finding a job.
I definitely feel that AI has affected the number of jobs I'm able to apply to. I have noticed in the last couple months that there have been fewer job postings that I am qualified for, just because I feel like AI is taking away some of those jobs.
Ashley says that many of her friends have given up on finding a job that matches their degrees.
Some of them have kind of settled for the underemployed route and have taken those jobs, and some of them went to trade school after getting, their BBA.
One such person is 25-year-old Chris Henderson. He graduated from Rowan University in 2022 with a degree in business management.
At the time, I saw myself getting a job in a financial firm, in an office firm, but I wasn't able to find anything that was really in my salary range. Instead, I was seeing roles like a store clerk. They didn't need a business management degree.
After 3 months of job searching, he decided to work for his family's electrician business.
Basically, my father said, Chris, the electrical trade, there's always going to be work in the field, and it is a safe career, and if you are ever having any doubts on the job market or the careers with the bachelor degree, you can always fall back on the trades, and it's always going to be a safe spot, and there's always going to be work there.
After a year, Chris decided to pursue electrician work as a career.
I actually do find it really satisfying and fulfilling as an electrician, because it's nothing better than working with your hands and completing a job that you did on your own versus like working in an office job. Something about you doing it yourself and you perfecting your craft and doing something, it gave me a satisfaction like no other.
Chris is now making about $72,000 a year and plans to use his business degree to either run his family's business one day or start his own contracting company.
Right now, with all the AI, the electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging, there's so much demand, and it's just going to keep growing. And we don't have enough younger Gen Z tradesmen to do these type of roles. If you like working with your hands and you are a problem solver, I think that the trades are a great route because they offer a nice job, a nice pay, a great future, and there's nothing wrong with it.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts an increase of more than 77,000 new electrician jobs over the next 10 years. It also predicts more job openings for construction workers, nurse practitioners and registered nurses, software developers, and home healthcare aides. Many of those jobs require college degrees, but it still may take a while before the job market picks up steam.
I think in the short term, this is going to be the new normal for a little bit longer. But, I think that there are positive signs on the horizon. As the Federal Reserve continues to lower its interest rate, it'll increase stimulation in the economy, which could lead some of these small businesses to get off the sidelines and start making plans on how to grow and look towards the future.
Even as she searches for a job, Ashley Terrell says she's still glad she earned her college degree.
I don't have any regrets about going to college. The biggest way it paid off for me was just being able to grow a bit more independent away from my parents and to get some life skills.
Chris Henderson agrees.
I don't regret anything about college. There's certain aspects of college that teach you things like no other, such as time management. You learn a little more about yourself. I think that college was really a great route to really know what is your true passion.
I think the number one most powerful skill is to learn how to manage AI. Learn how to use the tool, incorporate it into what you're doing now. Learn how to communicate the fact that you can manage multiple tasks simultaneously through using tools like artificial intelligence and large language models. Flat hiring among Gen Z is something that we need to keep an eye on for not just right now, but the implications that has for the next 10 and 20 years, as these folks are trying to get skills that are able to support their long-term career progression, their overall wage growth, and also their own promotion potential. So getting folks into jobs and finding ways to do that is really important.
I think we can all agree that it's tough out there. It's not as easy, it's not as lucrative, it's not as wanting, let's say, embracing as it used to be for new college graduates, for the Gen Z. Remember, we're talking about between 13 years of age currently. They're between 13 years of age and 28. And again, you might say, well, 13, they're still kids, they're whatever. No, at 13, you're about to maybe give some thought in a couple years, especially in high schools, or how you line yourself up for it. And then you're coming out of high school with some idea of pursuing some education, some career path. What is it? What am I going to expose myself is? What do I want to do? Those strategies at that level make a difference, not so much in education in and of itself, because we know that that group, they change their mind. People just change their mind. They change their major and they swap out, they give up this for that so they can get a better sense of what's going on. And the navigation is fluid when it comes to college, your classes, your majors, or whatever. But the thing that's constant in that process is debt, D-E-B-T. What are you signing up for? What debt may you be incurring? How might you be exhausting or missing opportunities for scholarships? How might you be abridging some agreement from the school that's supposed to pay for that free ride in the beginning, and then all of a sudden changes in life and other things like that take you out of that. And so now you're incurring debt while you're trying to make up your mind. And so that is an important stage, because you're talking about credit and as well as other things. You're talking about financial burdens and weighing between school, how many classes, and work, because it's just necessary. And then you have the other end of that, the group that's 21 through 28, that top end. Well, they're coming out of college. They're out of college. They're already working. They're looking for jobs. They're the ones that's like, where is it? Where is that opportunity? They're facing a shrinking economy. They're facing a pool that's turning, a lake that's turning into a pond when it comes to that. And again, AI on the other side of that, closing the gap even more. So what can a Gen Zer do? Like you ask yourself, because you saw some examples in this clip where there was opportunities, right? The dad was able to tell the son, hey, look, we have with electricians, we have our own business. You know, if things get rough, you can't find a job, you can fall back and do this. The trades will always be here. Well, that young man is in a really fortunate situation because his family has a business. That's not going to be typical for most people, for most Gen Zers coming out of college looking for work. They don't have a dad that's going to be able to say, grab a truck, I'm going to put you through the training and let's go. It's just not that way. Now, what is true is who you know will trump what you know in a lot of instances. Because what happens when you're facing challenges, when you just can't go out and get these jobs, you can no longer, or the economy is such that it's difficult to follow the script. You go to school, you get this high GPA, you come out with your degree, and it's just opportunities waiting, not so much now. So what can you do? Because you can't go through playing this clip to people. It's just not going to add up. It's not going to make any sense. What can you do? You may be in a situation, for most who are not fortunate enough to have daddy and his company and daddy's money, which I think is a great thing. You may not be able to do that. So where does that networking come in? Where does who you know trumps what you know for the moment, so you can get in there and become a value or asset to a company or business or an opportunity? Well, a lot of times you hear about organizations, you hear about these sororities, and you hear about all of this other stuff, all of these organizations, right, throughout the collegiate career or whatever. But with the new people coming out, many of them may not be part of that. And they're facing it too. So what is it can you do? Well, let's take a listen to this clip here about how really, on the one hand, there's less opportunities, but on the other hand, the companies are actually fighting for talent. So let's take a listen to this.
How about this? A new college major called Artificial Intelligence and Decision Making is now the second most popular undergrad major at MIT. Polygraph AI Vice President Catherine Bedley joins me now. She's an expert on this. Catherine, that sounds to me like a degree that really pays big, finally. Does it?
Well, yes, it does. But I also think that, it's interesting because we're looking at, there isn't an oversupply of talent, but what an evolution of the talent is going to be needed to come into the job force. So they're going to need to have a lot of technical skills and not so much a general knowledge base, which is going to be an interesting for universities to be able to keep up with how fast AI is moving right now. So as college grads come into the workplace, having those skills, having a really technical understanding, having an understanding of AI governance and all of that, those are jobs that are paying and are in very high demand. And so, it might be a little bit of growing pains right now, but I believe that, ultimately the outlook is very optimistic.
If we're pushing out a lot of grads who've got their degrees in AI, is the industry big enough to absorb all of these AI, or is there huge demand for AI graduates?
Well, I don't believe it's an oversupply of talent, but like I said, it's an evolution of what the talent needs to look like. And so there is a little bit of a mismatch right now. It's a college degree does not get you as far as it used to 5 or 10 years ago, just given, all of the technological advances. But again, college students are resilient, and AI will help them to be able to help, hone in on those skill sets, because again, like I said, we need AI governance jobs, we need machine learning engineers, we need artificial intelligence engineers, and these jobs are not going away, but they are going to be in high demand, and companies are looking for that, and they're paying top dollar, and it's very competitive. So
$100,000 as soon when you graduate?
Yeah,
and
that
more?
would be a great starting salary, right?
Well, I'm asking the question.
Well, actually, yes. No, it is. Usually, even more. So, yes.
Yeah, I apologize for that. Yeah, she's talking about AI governance, analytics, analysts, data scientists, and different things like that. Here's the deal, though. Like, you want to ask yourself, what is it that can be done? For the 13-year-olds, before they get out of high school, they can make a switch. They could actually go a different way. They can deviate, right? They could hit the Delta and go into something like a trade school. I think a lot of trade schools, they might be popping back open all of a sudden. The plumbers, the electricians, the mechanics, the different things like that. I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities there. And then being so young, you could actually do something where you could earn a living, you could get a job, you could hit a market that's still warm and still hot, where there's opportunity, and then you could still go to college a couple years out, or just start taking some classes as part-time or whatever, and work towards that other end that you want to be part of. But what do the students, the young adults that have committed and they're going to graduate next year into the IT force, into some type of knowledge economy, what is it that they can do? This becomes the question, because you can do something. There's actions that you as an individual can take, and you can augment or change or increase your opportunities even up against this tough economy. Now, we know that attitude has to be balanced with reality, and we know that confidence grows with competence. But amongst and in between all of that, the rest of the salad that comes with that, are you committed? Are you focused? Are you interested? Do you show signs that this is what you do, that you really want this? Are you working on stuff? Are you studying things outside of what's required by your curriculum, by the syllabus? Do you read additional information? Are you networking with other individuals of like minds about what your pursuit, your career path is? A lot of that, believe it or not, is underestimated. Because if you have those practices that speak about you as a person, you will create an opportunity, and you will be able to, one, not only create an opportunity, you will be able to realize an opportunity, because people are watching you. And people will look at, okay, not only do they have a degree or they're about to get one, but they show signs that this is really what they want to do, not they're just part of some process and they want to sound like, oh yeah, I just took this and then all of a sudden now look at me, I'm screwed because the economy has changed. No, that defeatist attitude that people have, the people that you tell it to, if they own businesses, they're just going to stick a dagger in your heart. Because economically speaking, you're not going to be any good to them anyway. So I'm just saying that metaphorically. But the realities of it is, if you create situations for yourself and surround yourself around people and do the work that's not required, it's going to speak volumes about you. And it's going to say something else about you other than the degree. And that's what an employer or potential employer, that's what a candidate or somebody that can hook you up with somebody, that's what they're going to do. That's exactly what they're going to do. I can just tell you at a personal level how frustrating it is for me that I have a friend who has a son that I can't give a job to. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. I have a friend who has a son I can't give some work to. I can't give an opportunity to. I cannot train. I cannot mentor. I cannot upskill him, level him up, whatever those terms are. You don't even understand how frustrating that is. That I'm sitting there with a guy that I might not go to jail with, but I'll get him out on bail. Let me just say that. And he has a son. And his son is about to graduate with an IT degree, some IT degree, and it has a title that I've never heard of, but it's going to be a real degree. And it doesn't really matter what the degree is. It doesn't even, first of all, let's understand, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent, when it comes to IT, when it comes to technology, if you're in IT and technology and all that, first of all, you don't even need a degree. But I'll get into that in a minute. Let's just start there. But if you are the degree path, you're taking that path, that's fine. But the reason why it doesn't need a degree, because the other side of that IT part that doesn't require a degree, is that the degree ain't gonna get you the job, it's gonna get you the interview. So this guy's getting ready to get his degree, and I wouldn't hire him. This guy's getting ready to get his degree, and I can't even train him. I can't pour into him. I can pour into him as far as this stuff. What you should be doing, here goes some strategies. Did you think about this? In other words, I'm at the bottom of my bucket about what I could offer him, because it's like, what are we doing here? This is madness at this point. I'm wasting my time. So the idea is, if you're Gen Z, you can't change the economy. You're facing it. And when it comes to this college thing, I know I sound crazy saying, well, with IT, the degree isn't even necessary. It's not. Because I could give this guy an opportunity or put him in a position to get one without him having the degree. That's the frustration. Because I know it doesn't take the degree. If you are who you're supposed to be, who you pretend to be, I got you. But I can't even got him. Because he ain't that person that degree say he's supposed to be. But, don't take it from me. Take it from Elon
You don't need
Musk.
college to learn stuff, okay? Everything is available basically for free. You can learn anything you want for free. It is not a question of learning. There is a value that colleges have, which is like, seeing whether can somebody work hard at something, including a bunch of sort of annoying homework assignments, and still do their homework assignments and kind of soldier through and get it done. You know, that's like the main value of college. And then also, you know, if you probably want to hang around with a bunch of people your own age for a while instead of going right into the workforce. So I think colleges are basically for fun and to prove you can do your chores, but they're not for learning. So I'm going to make sure Tesla recruiting does not have anything that says requires university, because that's absurd. But there is a requirement of evidence of exceptional ability. Like, you just can't, if you're trying to do something exceptional, they must have evidence of exceptional ability. I don't consider going to college evidence of exceptional ability. In fact, ideally you dropped out and did something. I mean, obviously, you know, we just look at, like, you know, Gates is a pretty smart guy, he dropped out. Jobs, pretty smart, he dropped out. You know, Larry Ellison, smart guy, he dropped out. I'm like, obviously not needed.
So,
did Shakespeare even go to college? Probably not.
Up front, Mark.
How you doing? My name is Tolly McMillan. I'm a sophomore political science student from the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Next governor. But my question to you, I want to thank you for coming here. My question for you: do you think a bachelor's degree, with your experience with college and everything, do you think a bachelor's degree is a necessary key to attaining success?
Ooh, I am not your role model on this one. Yeah, absolutely. Stay in school. Look.
Be real. Now, Mark Zuckerberg was asked a question by this young man. Does the BS, the Bachelor of Science degree, does it hold it down? Is it still valuable, whatever? Now, Mark Zuckerberg, he gave the answer. He said, I'm not your example. And he laughs, and everybody chuckles, and he smirks, and he giggles, and it's just funny. It's ticklish. It's a ticklish question. Why is it a ticklish question? Because he's sitting there knowing the real answer to that is no. He just can't say it. He can't say, but he said it though. He said no. He said no. That's the thing. You know, we communicate through automatopoeia sometimes. Sounds, chuckles, laughter, cadence, body language, facial expressions, which way our eyes go, all of that. Think about all that they tell us. And that's what you saw. Because he essentially was saying, hell no. But he said it'll help. See, the help button with the question mark. You go to any web page, any application, somewhere on there, real small, sitting in the corner, laying at the bottom. It's a little question mark, typically blue. And right next to it, it says help. And that's what Mark Zuckerberg said. He said it'll help. It will help. I tell my friend's son, you're going to get a bunch of interviews. That's what the degree is going to do. But the moment you open your mouth, the moment you have nothing to show, the moment you haven't figured out a strategy over time to differentiate yourself from the herd of people that got that same degree with that same GPA, coming from that same school, looking like you, sounding like you, ain't did nothing. You ain't did no projects. You don't know what fucking GitHub is. You don't have a sense of AI and the foundational knowledge, concepts, and principles that's driving the market and increase the value at companies. You don't know nothing about the company you interviewing for, what they do, what type of technology. You a web developer and didn't even have inkling of fucking IQ to look at their website and try to figure out what technologies was behind it, what's being used behind it, what's driving it apart, any of that. You're not going to be able to come in there and when they ask you, look, you know I'm just graduating and I don't have any experience, but here goes some projects that I worked on with myself. Here goes some current projects I'm doing, and here goes some things I've done with a team. I was trying to do some things at the school, but then I reached out and I wanted to get a different student from 3 different schools that were in the technology majors for us to work on a project together because I wanted to diversify and get a much wider perspective and thoughts in terms of input and values on this project that we did. Any of that. See, that's what you can do. That's what they can do. Don't nothing stop you from doing that. Nothing. But if you don't do anything and you're just going to sit there with your degree and say, I got my degree, it ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Mark Zuckerberg continues and he talks about, oh, now I'm going to come back. Harvard going to let me back in. I'm going to get my degree. For what? What's the point of you coming back for Harvard getting your degree? To inspire others to get theirs? What is the point? Think about it. What is the point academically, measurably? What is the measurement of value of Mark Zuckerberg coming back to Harvard to get his degree? But to prove one thing, the degree wasn't necessary. It just wasn't. Now, it's going to be inspiring to the masses to get your degree. That makes sense. It's going to be used as a tool or instrument to promote, and this is why you should come here to Harvard, and this is why you should get your degree. Of course that makes sense. But Mark Zuckerberg coming back after Facebook and everybody applauding that Harvard's going to let him attend the school, what is the real joke here? When the original question is this.
How you doing? My name is Tolly McMillan. I'm a sophomore political science student from the great Commonwealth of Virginia, next governor. But my question to you, I want to thank you for coming here. My question for you, do you think a bachelor's degree with your experience with college and everything, do you think a bachelor's degree is a necessary key to attaining success?
Ooh, I am not your role model on this one. Yeah, absolutely. Stay in school. Look. I think it helps. I loved the time that I spent in college. I wish I could have gotten more time. I did not choose to leave. I just happened to build Facebook, and it kind of made me leave. But if I had the opportunity to learn for 2 more years in college, I mean, college is this magical time, right, where you get to.
And I get it. Talk, you just don't understand. You don't understand. I don't understand. Then why did Elon Musk say this if I don't understand? Why does he say this?
You don't need college to learn stuff, okay? Everything is available basically for free. You can learn anything you want for free. It is not a question of learning. There is a value that colleges have, which is like, seeing whether can somebody work hard at something, including a bunch of sort of annoying homework assignments, and still do their homework assignments and kind of soldier through and get it done. That's like the main value of college. And then also, if you probably want to hang around with a bunch of people your own age for a while instead of going right into the workforce. So I think colleges are basically for fun and to prove you can do your chores, but they're not for learning. So I'm going to make sure Tesla recruiting does not have anything that says requires university, because that's absurd. But there is a requirement of evidence of exceptional ability. Like, you just can't, if you're trying to do something exceptional, they must have evidence of exceptional ability. I don't consider going to college evidence of exceptional ability. In fact, ideally you dropped out and did something. I mean, obviously,
All right, so let me jump in right there, because I'm gonna let it play, but let me just say this to you, okay? When he say everything that you want to learn is practically free, remember who this is. This is Elon Musk. So you want to put it in context. For people who want to say, oh, what he's saying isn't true, okay, that's fine. For the sake of argument, you're absolutely right. I have no disagreements. But in context, what he's saying is absolutely true. because I remember years ago, a young man was talking to me about, yeah, I'm gonna go to school for cybersecurity, and I want to learn about routers and switches. This was 100 years ago, you know, and so you know what I said to him? I said, well, you can learn most of that stuff before you go to school, and if you learn a lot of it before you go to school, what you wind up doing is you put yourself on a fast track, or you'll decide to go to a different school because you'll feel some type of way spending your grant money or taking out a loan or using a scholarship to apply to something that you can already do, you already understand at a different level. And he says, well, Talk, how would I learn it? Is nobody in my family? I don't know anybody. How would I learn that before I go to school? This is 100 years ago, right? About routers and switches. I said, do y'all have internet at home? And he says, yeah, we have internet at home. I said, that's wonderful. You got internet at home. Okay, so that part is cool. You got internet at home. All right. I said, now, what type of internet do you have? And he says, well, my sister has cable internet, but my mom has DSL. Now, DSL, digital serial line, subscribe, whatever that is, that lets you know how long ago it was. And you know what I told him to do? I said, you create a class for yourself. This is how you do it. You dial in, make sure you get the admin password to dial in through your browser or whatever to the router at your mom's house. And once a week or twice a week, if you're really serious, do it 3 times a week. You call for support and you talk to Comcast and you tell them the throughput is not working and something's wrong and you unplug something, whatever you do. And when they're telling you do this, say, look, well, I want to dial into the router and I want to see the settings. They're going to walk you through. And you're going to say, well, I want to add a computer, or typically it's me and my sister, it's 3 of us on here. I want to make sure the neighbor not joining our network. And they walk you through, here's your SSID, you got your password, that should be enough. Yeah, but I want to lock it down that when we have guests over, they can't just join the internet by looking under the bottom of the router and getting the SSID password. And they say, well, you can change the password yourself, but here's how you really want to do it. Because what you wind up doing, you wind up getting somebody on the other end on that support line. They know all that information, and they can never be as geeky as they want to be when they're talking to people. So here you come, asking for questions where they can provide another level. And you do it for a different part each time. So you do it, so you learn how to create a demarcation, a subnet. You learn how you can lock it down to an IP address. You learn how you can understand sessions. You learn how you can just see what's on the network. You ask them, well, what type of tool I can maybe see the traffic? You could do that 3 times a week if he was serious, I told him, and learn every click and name in that router. Do it twice at your mom's house. Go visit your sister once a week for a half hour and do it over there. Call their support. Tell them something wrong and do it there. And before you go to college, because he was in high school at the time, you will know everything about a router. It's just that with a Cisco router, it's the same technology, it's a different product, so it either has more, does something different, or the little nuances. But the foundational knowledge of what a router is, what a packet is, what switching is, what sessions are, what TDLs are, time to lives are, what is this, what is that, what is that? That is the technology itself. Don't worry about the company. Don't worry about it being Linksys router versus a Cisco router versus a Broadcom router versus some other type of router. Don't focus on that. Learn the technology. And then when you go to school or you decide which school to go to, you will understand so much about it, you're probably not going to choose the school that you think. You're definitely not going to sign up for the one that pops up on the commercial. That was 100 years ago. You watch TV, commercials come on. Nothing's changed about that approach. See, people that are really serious and committed and focused and have a vision to get somewhere in their craft, not these mediocre, wandering through life, this is something cool to sign up with, not that group of Gen Zers, because they're part of the mediocre pool. They don't really want that shit. This is the thing to do, and I want to make some money, and yeah. But the ones who are serious and want to get it, them, you be on some other shit. You just be on something else. Your level be on something else. So what you do is you put yourself in the position where you can get exposure. You surround yourself around like minds. Crackheads don't hang out with alcoholics. Alcoholics don't hang out with crackheads. When you catch them together, there's some overlap between one trying to buy some drugs, the other already drinking the alcohol, and there's this little Venn diagram union section where they might overlap and engage one another. But majority of the times, no. I'm around people that smell. When you go downtown, you work somewhere, who outside smoking? You don't see the non-smokers standing next to the smokers at 5 below, wind chill 32, whatever. No. So what can a Gen Zer do if they about that? They are. You already doing it. You already doing it. I'll give you an example. You already doing it. The reason why you don't know nobody that's really into what you're doing, and the reason why you don't hang out with anybody that's into what you're doing, is because you're not into doing it. So you go to school, you do the classes, you do the work, and then you go hang out with painters and electricians and people that's working at a museum some fucking where. That ain't typically what happens. Typically what happens is you develop rapport and relationships with the like minds of you. So if you're going to school for some technology, cybersecurity, project management, programming, developing, IT support, whatever that is, how you about that life, and when it's not scheduled by the school or required by the instructor or the professor, you not doing that. It's a struggle for you to do that because you're not about that. That's not you. Don't nobody struggle to do what they do without the excitement. That's why it's so laborious. That's why it seems like a labor camp, like it's the suffrage act for you to read something additional in your field when it's not required. It's hard. You can't even understand. I can't get it. No, you can get it. But if you about that, you Gen Zers, whatever that is, you gotta take action that you can do. You can have some say-so. You can make decisions on. To put yourself in a different type of position. So then when you do look for the jobs and you do talk to people, people are listening. They're listening more than you think. People are watching. They're watching more than you think. And when you speak at that young 21-year-old age, or 18 or 23 or whatever, and you say, look, I'm about to graduate, or I just graduated, and it's really difficult out here, but I volunteered, and I'm actually working on the project, and I'm doing some things with this other team, and we working on XYZ. Trust me, the person that's listening, they're going to be like, oh, really? Oh, okay. You know, we're not hiring right now, but we do have an internship or externship program, or whatever they say, a volunteer program. Would you be open for something like that? I know it's tough because you're looking for a job, but would you even be willing for something? See, they're not even going to mention that to the other person. Well, I just graduated and I know I don't have no experience. I'm just looking to see if there's anything out here. And then you ask them a question and they sound like they never been for that class. Never been for that class. It's the craziest thing. And then the crime that's being committed, the morality crime, the integrity crime that's being committed by the universities and the professors, is that they're teaching a bunch of nothings anyway. And here's one that's going to actually.
How do I get an AI tutor
this guy
in
right
every
here,
kid's ear? How is there
this
not
guy
a
right
stampede
here is Stephen Levitt.
to get kids equipped with those tools?
Stephen Levitt is
where we didn't know what the answers were and we didn't have the right tools.
Teaches at U of I or U of C, and he wrote a book called Freakonomics. He's sitting there with Ben Gomez, who's Chief Technology Officer for Google. He's explaining to him how he feels bad as a professor, that he knows he's just coming up with stuff to make it seem challenging to the university students, and it doesn't even matter. Just to give them the impression that you're really good, I'm gonna give you an A, and you're not so good, I'm gonna give you a C, and whatever. I mean, listen to this, and you make sense of it. This is just morally and ethically criminal to me.
Just-in-time learning, which is something which actually makes sense. So you and I have both at various points in our life faced problems where we didn't know what the answers were and we didn't have the right tools. And what I do, and I assume you do, is say, well, I got to go learn those tools. And I was equipped to be able to learn those tools. So I think you're right. In a world in which you do not know what you'll be doing 5 years from now or 20 years from now, building, and a world in which so much knowledge is now at our fingertips, cramming your head full of facts and formulas is not the answer to managing the future. It's not even, it's self-evident that not the, but it's hard for the system to catch up, in part because the system is built on evaluation, right, of giving grades. And as an educator teaching at the University of Chicago, look, I'm the worst offender in the world. I need to somehow give some kids A's and some kids B's. And the easiest way to do that is to teach them things that don't matter in ways that are somewhat hard and overcomplicated so that I have a way to separate them out. And it's terrible, and I'm embarrassed about it, but it's what I do in my everyday life.
I think students would be lucky to have you as a professor because you're a very engaging storyteller. But
on May 16th, 2025, I woke up and was ready to get into my graduation gown for the day of celebration of Villanova's graduation ceremony. My family and friends came from pretty much across the country to see me walk across the stage and receive my diploma.
Michael, Sean, Matthias.
Yeah, Michael! I was really on top of the world, super excited to finally have the diploma that shows my hard work over those 4 years. I was super excited to apply those skills to the job market, to an employer, and finally be an independent adult. Flash forward a couple months into the job search, it's been a little demoralizing. The job market has been very tough, especially for the new grads. I have been on my job search since November 2024. I've been applying anywhere and everywhere, and it has been a little difficult to even get to the initial interviews that I want to get to.
The job market is kind of trash right now. I mean, it's really difficult. It's really difficult for people who have many years of experience, so it's going to be difficult for college kids.
The rise of youth unemployment is worrisome. For the individual worker, we can see that graduating in a recession leaves long-lasting scars for decades after.
These workers are a vital part of the labor market, and if they're having a hard time, that means that the economy could have a hard time.
For the broader economy, these youth workers might be early indicators that the overall economy is slowing down or maybe even heading towards a recession.
For the first time in modern history, a bachelor degree is no longer a reliable path to professional employment.
If you look at the overall labor market, it's still doing strong. Unemployment rates in general are still fairly low. But then when you zoom in on the young workers, they seem to be struggling.
The unemployment rate among young U.S. workers aged 16 to 24 stood at 10.4% in September. It's generally been trending upward since April 2023, when it dipped to the lowest point since the pandemic.
And in particular, there's been a worrisome rise in unemployment rates among recent college graduates. Usually we think of those as being some of the safest workers in our economy, but that pattern seems to be flipping right now.
I think that is because two factors. One is the supply of workers with a bachelor degree is increasing, but at the same time, partly because of AI, the demand for workers with a bachelor degree is not increasing anymore. So we have a glut of people with a bachelor degree. Their wage growth is growing more slowly, and with AI continuing to automate more and more jobs, I expect that the trend to continue.
Artificial intelligence has allowed some corporate giants to hire fewer workers, and some have even begun shrinking their workforces as they integrate more automation. Goldman Sachs says it could displace 6 to 7% of the US workforce over the next decade. Young workers are feeling AI's impact the most. A Stanford study finds that since 2022, unemployment for 22 to 25-year-olds in highly AI-exposed jobs has dropped 13%, while older workers and those in less exposed roles remain steady or growing.
I think AI and machine learning is absolutely taking entry-level careers from new graduates like myself. From a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. You get something that can produce results a lot quicker. I really can't blame employers for making those steps, in my mind, the right direction to save money, cut costs. But it's a little frustrating from my standpoint because I'm looking for a full-time career somewhere to really put my skills to work.
Especially for larger corporations that are trying to go through AI transformation. Some of it could be tied to AI from a perspective of they're trying to let go of people in other departments so that they can invest more in AI. But at the same time, I think what's also happening is the AI systems that can write code, especially at junior level, has gotten really good. And because of that, we are already seeing, especially in tech companies, the need for a number of junior engineers has gotten lower.
The Federal Reserve has also taken notice.
You see a significant number of companies either announcing that they are not going to be doing much hiring or actually doing layoffs. Much of the time they're talking about AI and what it can do. So we're watching that very carefully.
But there is another element here, which is more and more young people are going to college, and at a much higher rate than the baby boomers who are now retiring. So what's happening is that the workforce is becoming more and more educated over time. And perhaps to the degree that we have a glut of college grads,
AI might be having a little bit of impact. But I think right now, what's really driving a lot of this youth unemployment is the fact that businesses just in general are not bringing on new workers. And so whether you're unemployed or whether you're trying to get in the labor market for the first time, right now is a really difficult time to find a job.
Just a few years ago, many companies, especially tech firms, went on a hiring spree during the pandemic era. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Amazon's workforce ballooned to 1.6 million employees globally in 2021. By 2024, the count had shrunk to 1.5 million, and 2025 is no stranger to layoffs.
Amazon saying this morning it's going to lay off about 14,000 corporate employees as it restructures for the AI era, marking the latest move in a multi-year effort to streamline operations and shift resources toward its biggest bets, including generative AI.
Experts are divided on whether COVID-19 hiring sprees are behind the current layoffs.
Overhiring they did in the COVID era when they didn't actually need to, the results of that are being seen now. So correlation doesn't imply causation. Like, it's not because of AI that people are losing jobs. In fact, because of AI, we see a lot more empowerment in people. Like, small business owners are able to take advantage of AI and build amazing companies.
we should probably not use this argument much anymore. It's been a long time. I think if there was overhiring, it's already been adjusted in 23, 24. We are now November 25. I think it's no longer a big impact. But I would say that the period of strong labor shortages that we had in 21, 22, 23, I think it forced companies, even without AI or not taking AI out of the story here, it just forced companies, this severe labor shortage, to learn how to do things with fewer people. And that may be another factor that is impacting the labor market conditions now.
Not only are young workers finding it difficult to enter the job market, but the young professional workforce is also shrinking. A recent study by compensation platform Pave finds that between January 2023 and July 2025, the number of young workers at large public technology companies fell by more than half. Private technology companies also saw a decline.
The impact that this rising youth unemployment rate could have, you start playing this out over the course of years and you say, if these workers have a hard time getting into jobs now, that impacts spending, right? That impacts them going out, buying things. That also impacts their earning capabilities, money going into taxes, which ultimately impacts government spending as well, right? And so you start to add these things together and it really can lead to further widening in income inequality.
Economic inequality in the US is getting worse. The new Oxfam report shows that between 1989 and 2022, the top 1% gained about 101 times more wealth than the median household.
we will see a much higher inequality. It's a problem today, and it will be an even bigger problem in the future. It will be a problem that will have political consequences. I think what will eventually happen is that there will be growing demand for income redistribution.
If you have increasing unemployment rates, especially among young workers, it might leave some with being dissatisfied with the current economy and political climate that could have some implications for, in general, the political debate.
And so we need to really be thinking about, how do we make sure that we're taking care of this right now, because it could have big spending, big economic implications down the road.
The job market is challenging for young workers as many entry-level positions, a launchpad for new graduates, are disappearing. At the same time, however, Handshake, a career site for college students and recent grads, reports that employers are increasingly seeking entry-level hires who are fluent in AI.
We're actually seeing from companies is an increase in desire for early talent to have AI skills. So we've actually seen a 5x increase in our job postings since 2023 that list AI skills as part of the job requirements or qualifications. And even on internships, it's been a 4x increase in that same amount of time. So employers are interested in early talent that is familiar and comfortable using AI. They do expect that early talent will be able to use AI in their functional roles, and that they will know how to balance both their expertise and knowledge as well as productivity and efficiency.
I think especially the younger workforce should realize that this AI is starting to automate a lot of stuff. AI started to augment a lot of stuff. So learning how to use the tools will make them stand out when they are applying for jobs, like knowing how to prompt better, knowing how to use multiple Gen AI systems if needed, where some Gen AI systems are good for certain kind of tasks. Knowing about all of these and having that literacy to be able to do different tasks better in a more efficient way, because they'll just become more learned on AI tools, will allow them to stand out.
We should not be afraid of AI. We should actually be embracing AI for all of the places that it can help. And what it doesn't replace is really smart, creative people. And we see that all across the board.
In today's AI-driven workforce, some career experts also emphasize the importance of networking in navigating the job market.
First and foremost, if you're someone who's graduating right now and you haven't done internships while you've been in school, if you haven't been working on building connections with people who are in the professional working world, you need to hurry up and get on that, because the number one thing you can do to separate yourself from the pack is to have those relationships, to have someone who remembers you, who had a good experience working with you as an intern and who wants to see you succeed. And I don't ever want to undervalue or underestimate the power of those personal connections.
I have a lot of hope going forward for the job market. I'm a little bit of an optimist in that sense. I think, hard times create strong people. And I think this is just a little bit of a difficult time for those new graduates. And ultimately, those new graduates are going to become stronger people. And I think they will not take their jobs for granted in the future.
In 2024, the 4 largest tech companies in the United States leading advances in AI earned nearly $268 billion.
Both Amazon and Microsoft exceeding analyst estimates on both the top line and the bottom line.
But these profits have come at the cost of the dismissal of hundreds of thousands of workers who generally belong to the so-called middle class.
Despite reporting better than expected quarterly results, tech giant Microsoft announced it will be laying off roughly 6,000 employees.
Although advances in artificial intelligence promise gains in productivity, efficiency, and cost reduction, people who lose their jobs also lose the opportunity to move up the socioeconomic ladder.
Big tech companies like Meta, Google, and Amazon have been laying off a staggering amount of workers, tens of thousands of people.
The problem is that with the elimination of these jobs, the gap between the rich and the poor is growing increasingly wider.
The digital revolution creates enormous wealth for those with the skills and preparation to take advantage, but it eliminates what economists call middle skill jobs.
Whereas in the past, workers had bargaining power due to their essential role in production, today that power is diminished in the face of machines that operate without salaries, demands, or interruptions. So, how artificial intelligence is replacing middle-class careers? The rise of artificial intelligence has ushered in a new technological era that promises significant productivity gains, cost reductions, and transformative efficiencies across all sectors. However, behind these promises lies a growing economic concern. AI is accelerating a structural shift in the U.S. labor market that threatens the stability and very existence of the middle class. Historically, the middle class has been the backbone of the U.S. economy, sustained by a broad base of white-collar jobs in sectors such as finance, education, and law. The automation of traditional tasks performed by mid-skilled professionals is severely affecting the American middle class.
Computer software and industrial machines now fill roles from clerical tasks to routine manufacturing that once produced middle-class incomes for workers without college degrees.
At the same time, wealth is increasingly concentrated in a small elite that owns AI companies. Although much of the public attention has focused on how automation threatens blue-collar manufacturing jobs, a quieter revolution is unfolding in white-collar sectors. In fields that were traditionally considered immune to automation, such as law, journalism, and finance, AI is already displacing workers. For example, AI tools are being used by law firms to draft legal documents, by newsrooms to generate content, and by corporations to replace customer service agents. A 2024 McKinsey report estimated that between 15 and 30% of working hours in white-collar jobs could be automated by 2030. But what is most concerning is the impact on careers that have traditionally defined the American middle class.
Artificial intelligence is advancing at breakneck speed, and the CEO of an AI firm just warned businesses and politicians that they shouldn't sugarcoat the impact that this is going to have on the workforce.
Being a teacher, accountant, copywriter, or financial analyst used to be seen as a stable path to a life of decent income, benefits, and social mobility. Today, many of those occupations are under threat from AI systems that perform tasks faster, at lower cost, and often with fewer errors. Accounting, for instance, is being transformed by platforms that use AI to process and audit financial data, reducing the need for human accounting staff. In journalism, media companies like the Associated Press have adopted automatic article generation for financial and sports coverage. In education, platforms like Khan Academy and AI-powered tutoring services are beginning to replace part of the teacher's role, especially in individualized tutoring. Even in programming, tools like GitHub Copilot are drastically reducing the need for junior developers by automatically generating blocks of code. Moreover, these tools are replacing traditional occupations at an unprecedented speed. What was once a clearly defined career path, progressing from roles like accounting assistant to senior accountant or from junior reporter to editor, is now disappearing. AI not only automates specific tasks, but also redraws the full scope of certain jobs.
Let's talk about how AI is transforming the legal industry. Many of these tools are so powerful that big law firms are actually restructuring their workflows just to integrate them.
In the legal industry, assistants and paralegals are being replaced by platforms that not only draft contracts, but also perform case law analysis. In finance, analysts are being replaced by algorithms capable of scanning and evaluating market trends in real time. In design, new generative tools allow anyone to create professional quality images without prior training, drastically reducing demand for skilled graphic designers. This replacement of entire job functions is causing traditional middle-class careers to lose their structural value. It is no longer about learning a discipline and practicing it for decades, but about constantly adapting to a market in which technical knowledge can become obsolete within months. As a result, the stability offered by these professions, predictable income, health insurance, the ability to buy a house and educate one's children, is crumbling.
Artificial intelligence is set to reshape our workplaces.
What does this mean for my job? Am I going to have a job? Will my children have jobs?
Companies are itching to incorporate AI into their systems. But are we really ready for it?
These transformations not only eliminate existing jobs, but also alter career trajectories. The middle class can no longer count on joining a company, starting from the bottom and climbing through experience and effort. Entry-level roles, fundamental for building skills, are disappearing. And when those lower rungs are erased, professional advancement becomes nearly impossible. Corporate behavior suggests that staff cuts have already begun. In 2023 alone, the tech industry laid off more than 260,000 workers, with many companies citing AI efficiencies as the main reason. In February 2025, Meta announced the elimination of approximately 3,600 jobs, representing around 5% of its global workforce. Likewise, financial giants like Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs have implemented AI to automate much of the client-facing work, reducing the need for junior analysts and associates. positions that historically offered access to the middle class.
Artificial intelligence and the impact it's having on our day-to-day lives, and that now includes the world of finance.
Yes, Morgan Stanley is expanding the use of OpenAI-powered tools in its investment banking and trading division.
As traditional middle-class jobs disappear, wealth becomes concentrated in the hands of those who control AI technologies. The major tech companies are in a privileged position to capitalize on this revolution, accumulating market value thanks to the ownership of platforms, algorithms, patents, and vast amounts of data. In contrast, most workers face a future of unstable, poorly paid jobs without benefits. An analysis by the Economic Policy Institute revealed that between 1979 and 2022, labor productivity in the United States grew by 64.6%, while hourly compensation for the average worker rose by only 17.3%. This disconnect has been exacerbated by AI, which enables companies to extract more value with fewer workers. The result is a system in which capital, not labor, receives most of the benefits of economic growth.
In countries with advanced economies, inequality of income and wealth has surged, and nowhere has it surged more than in the U.S., where reliance on free market forces has been strongest.
Wealth inequality has reached historic levels. According to data from the Federal Reserve, the richest 10% of the population owns 70% of all wealth in the United States. Meanwhile, the middle class, which includes households with incomes between 2/3 and twice the national average, held 62% of the country's wealth in 1980, but in 2023 retains only 43%. This growing disparity has not only economic, but also social and political implications. A weakened middle class has less capacity to actively participate in democracy, invest in education, form stable families, or sustain local communities. The widening gap between rich and poor threatens to destabilize the social contract that has been fundamental to the development of the United States as a prosperous and democratic society.
At Economy Media, your opinion matters to us. Subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments below.
This year's senior class at universities across the country is the first to have spent nearly its entire college career in the age of generative AI, a type of artificial intelligence that can create new content like text and images. As the technology improves, it's harder to distinguish from human work, and it's shaking academia to its core with some very big questions. Special correspondent Fred DeSam-Lazaro has the story for our series, Rethinking College.
And the principle of humanities says, treat all people as ends in themselves, never merely as means.
About 2 years ago, Megan Fritz, a philosophy professor at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, began spotting something unusual about her students' writing.
You suddenly get an essay or a test answer, some kind of assignment from a student whose normal writing you're familiar with, and you get something back that sort of sounds like an official business document or a piece of technical writing that sounds very highly polished, but very impersonal.
Impersonal because it likely wasn't written by a person. This was the beginning of a turning point for higher ed, as generative AI had swept through not only her campus, but college campuses across the country. A survey last year found that 86% of college students are now using AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude AI, and Google Gemini for schoolwork. The reason generative AI has spread so quickly on college campuses is not hard to understand. It's transformed tasks that used to take hours, even days of writing and revision into something that can be done in mere minutes. For example, I can ask ChatGPT, write me a 1,000-word essay on the topic of, is it okay to lie? And using a massive amount of data, it predicts and generates sentences on this topic instantly. Fritz says the impact has been deeply disruptive.
If I'm reading the writings of ChatGPT, and instead of my students, I have lost the very best tool that I have to see if I am being effective in my capacity as an instructor or not.
We really need a framework in which people can use these things and innovate while minimizing the risk.
University policymakers have scrambled to stay ahead.
I think the realization over the past year and a half is the technology is outpacing our ability to detect it.
Vice Provost of Research Brian Berry leads one of UA Little Rock's committees tasked with creating clear campus-wide policies on AI.
I think it really comes down to us helping students understand what's at risk, helping them understand that if they use AI in the right way, it's literally the most powerful tool that they've ever been able to use, and it will make huge differences. But if they use it in the wrong way, it could short-circuit their learning process.
The university is finalizing a policy that lets professors determine what AI use is acceptable in their classrooms as long as they clearly outline it in their syllabus. But for Fritz, who has a strict no AI policy, identifying it has been complicated and time-consuming.
So Phrasely is one of the softwares that I use. If I suspect AI use, then the first thing I do is I do use detection softwares. I actually use 8 different detection softwares.
If her suspicion is confirmed, she does meet with the student.
And if they can talk about the thing that they wrote about, then great. But a lot of times they can't.
Sounds like it's tedious and a lot more work for professors like yourself.
It certainly cuts into my life quite a bit. It at least has sometimes made teaching feel like policing.
And these detection methods are not foolproof. Students online say that they're caught in the middle.
I've been falsely accused by my university of using AI to write a paper.
My final paper got detected as 60% AI.
We might be about to find out if I'm going to falsely get kicked out of college for...
Ashley Dunn was a senior at Louisiana State University when she was accused of using AI to write a short essay for a British literature class after a detection tool flagged her writing last year.
And I was like, am I going to fail this class? Am I going to get a 0? Every college takes plagiarism and that kind of thing very seriously. So I was just freaking out.
After communicating with her professor, Dunn says she was eventually given an A for the assignment, but the response to her on TikTok proves that this is a widespread issue.
A lot of people ended up making responses to my video, pretty much saying that they had gone through the same thing, but that they didn't really get as lucky and they ended up either getting 0s or failing the class. Some people recently have been making videos about, oh, my professor said that my essay was AI because I used an M dash, but that's just a regular way of writing, especially for a college level.
You're going to be asked to go out and venture into Gen AI?
Not all schools are anti-AI. Some are actually looking for ways to embrace it. Lori Kendall teaches an entrepreneurship class in the Fisher College of Business at The Ohio State University.
When Gen AI came out, I and every other instructor did, oh great, now what? Do we allow AI? Do we not allow AI? And the reality is, you know what, they're going to use it anyway.
She now encourages her students to use AI to critically examine their original work and as a learning aid.
A lot of people, might use AI just to get assignments done, plagiarism, but I like to use AI just for a deeper understanding.
Rachel Gervais is a first-year student majoring in air transportation.
I oftentimes use AI to create questions regarding this topic so I not only get a better understanding of the actual material, but I also can test and see what I need to maybe focus on even more.
If you don't use AI or the next technology that comes along to be more effective, you're not going to be competitive in the job market. The job market's changing right underneath your feet.
As the chief academic officer, I get to decide on academic integrity issues, honor code, and violations.
Ravi Belankonda is executive vice president and provost at Ohio State University. He says he was struck by one alleged violation last year, a student accused of using AI. It was a case of cheating, he says, but it made him think.
What if there existed technology that indeed lets our students produce work of very high quality? Shouldn't we investigate this a little further?
Belamkonda spearheaded Ohio State's new AI Fluency Initiative, which requires all undergraduate students across academic disciplines learn and use AI tools.
The trick is to figure out, like any human interaction with technology, what can we offload to technology and what do we need to add value to. Ohio State wants to be at the front of that creation of those rules.
That's prompted experimentation across the disciplines, like music professor Tina Talon's AI and Music class, which explores innovative uses of the technology.
I always start the class by asking them to think about a challenge in their field. At that point, we're not even talking about AI. I just want them to identify something that either they've run up against or that their students or their colleagues have.
One member of her class, tuba instructor and doctoral student Will Resch, is using AI to analyze airflow into his instrument over thousands of repetitions. The data will help guide students on how to play the perfect note. Another, Natalia Moreno Buitrago, is a music education grad student studying how babies acquire musical knowledge. She used to spend hours combing through home recordings of research subjects, listening for moments when parents or caregivers sing or hum around the infant. Now AI does this for her.
If we critically examine the tools that we're engaging with and are actively involved in the development of them, I think we can do some pretty incredible things.
But inevitably, these tools also bring major disruption to academia and to the jobs students hope to someday fill.
How do we go through a transformative moment like this with the disruptions that it is going to cause, and yet do this in a way that ultimately is additive to us as a society, that it improves our lot as human beings?
A question without a clear answer, he says, but one that students should help tackle. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Fred DeSam-Lazaro in Columbus, Ohio.
Good evening. Look at these people. All of you know them. They're famous. And I have a question for you. What do you think? What do they have in common? Because of course, except from being American. Yeah, good answer. But my answer is different. And this list includes many people who couldn't fit in these photographs. These people, all of them, they didn't have formal education in the fields that they succeeded in. So they succeeded in technology, be it physics, be it chemistry, philosophy, writing, but they succeeded without having formal education. Just go to Wikipedia and write list of famous autodidacts. These people are autodidacts. Autodidacts are people who learn themselves. They don't stop with formal education. They don't stop with formal.
Back to School Week continues here on CBS Mornings, and a tricky subject today, the rise of artificial intelligence in classrooms. Advocates say it's going to be a helpful tool for kids and for teachers alike. Others say it discourages kids from thinking on their own. Critically, that is. Nancy Chen spoke to teachers and a tech executive about what's next, including a new partnership that could launch a fresh chapter in education.
I put 2 books in there, and it puts it into a podcast. And it's literally 13 minutes of information about the Boston Tea Party.
Jerome Ahn uses AI tools every week in his 5th grade Ridgewood, New Jersey classroom.
You have to find what works for your students.
Has it changed the way you approach teaching?
Absolutely. They're reading a book and ultimately listening to it at the same time. You know, so when I play the audio.
Have you ever heard of a party where, like, the main event was chucking something super valuable right into the water?
Ahn says he teaches what AI is and where it falls short.
Like if you keep at it and say, no, you're wrong, eventually AI will say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And doing that with your class can show you that AI isn't really as smart as you think it is.
It almost sounds like you're teaching AI literacy in all of this, too.
Right.
Artificial intelligence is top of mind in most fields, and many educators have been teaching themselves how to use it. But this summer, Microsoft, OpenAI, and Anthropic announced a first-of-its-kind plan to train hundreds of thousands of members of the American Federation of Teachers, or AFT, the nation's second-largest teachers union.
What really drew you to this partnership?
I think if we're going to make AI work for students, for kids, we need to listen to teachers.
Microsoft President Brad Smith.
It can, I think, change the way teachers work in ways that empower teachers, gives them more information, makes it easier in terms of preparing for classes, thinking about how to put together lesson plans.
In one recent survey, teachers reported saving an average of nearly 6 hours a week with AI. But critics cite cheating concerns and Microsoft's own research, which showed a self-reported decline in critical thinking skills when AI was not used responsibly.
We have a huge opportunity to learn from the last 15 years in, say, social media. None of us appreciated what could go wrong. Let's go into an AI era with our eyes wide open.
This is a way to get profits.
Former high school teacher and AFT member Lois Weiner says teachers would be better served by more support within schools than by an alliance with Silicon Valley.
There is so much drudgery in the job. But the answer to that is to improve the conditions of teachers' work.
Does this do that?
Absolutely not.
How would you respond to those who say that education should be left to the teachers and not to tech companies?
I think education must be left to teachers. Those of us in the tech sector need to provide the tools and empower the school boards and districts and teachers so they decide how to put those tools in practice.
Ong says if AI is already here,
Let's try to figure this out to help our kids continue to learn and grow.
This $23 million investment will go toward virtual and in-person trainings right here in New York City. The union's president said the connection between a teacher and their kids can never be replaced by new technologies, but if we learn how to set common sense guardrails, teaching and learning can be enhanced. It is remarkable how far we've come since ChatGPT launched back in late 2022, and now you have surveys showing as many as nearly 85% of teachers are using AI in some form in their classrooms.
I like the common sense guardrails.
Yeah, and teaching is hard, and if it can save them time, I'm all for it. I just hope the kids can, still learn to think.
Yeah,
Nancy,
absolutely.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Leadership and ingenuity will define tomorrow's digital landscape. It is my great honor to introduce His Excellency Abdullah Al-Swaha, Minister of Communications and Information Technology of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Your Excellency, thank you so much. Good to see you. Also with us this morning are two incredible visionaries. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, founder of SpaceX, founder of XAI, and Jensen Huang, founder and CEO of NVIDIA.
Please have a seat. Now I'm sure we can do a bigger round of applause for one of the greatest two leaders of our history. Let's go ahead. So we're talking about, I lost count, $7 to $8 trillion worth of market cap, comp, I lost count. But right now, we're here to celebrate a historic moment. A moment that yesterday during the dinner, and thank you for joining us under the patronage of the Honorable President and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Musaidi, where we had the pleasure to hear it firsthand. This is the greatest alliance between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United States, where we have joined hands and you have helped us build our energy-based economy, fueling and energizing the industrial age, and now fast forward, going to the intelligence age, where we can fuel AI factories, robotics, AVs, and all of the rest. Speaking of that, let's start with you, Elon, if you don't mind, Jensen. Feel free to chime in. You have a big fascination of something all of us have admired, first-order thinking, which Jensen sometimes calls first-order scaling, which is an opportunity for how you have dropped the cost of batteries from $1,000 per kilowatt hour to sub $100. And right now you're doing the same thing with robotics for actuators with servo rotors and motors. So I want to hear from you, how do you manage to always disrupt every single industry with that thinking?
Well, it's mostly not disruption, it's creation. So with, say, SpaceX, with reusable rockets, there really weren't any reusable rockets. But the essence of revolutionizing space travel is reusability. If you throw the rocket away every time, the cost of access to space is extremely high. With respect to electric cars, there weren't any electric cars when we started making them, really. You couldn't buy any, to the best of my knowledge. So with Tesla, we wanted to make electric cars compelling and affordable. That was the goal. With respect to humanoid robotics, there are no useful humanoid robots at this point. There are sort of gimmicks, but there are no actually useful humanoid robots. And I think Tesla's going to make the first actually useful humanoid robots.
Good afternoon, Reverend Lawrence Adele Sefer. I hope I said that correctly, but good afternoon.
And this will be quite a revolution, and I think something that everyone will want, because I always think of like, who wouldn't want their own personal C-3PO R2-D2?
Oh, yeah?
Of course. Everyone would want one, right? And then there would be many in industry providing products and services. This is why I say that humanoid robots will be the biggest industry, or the biggest product ever. Bigger than cell phones or anything else, because everyone's going to want one, and or maybe more than one, and there'll be many in industry.
I just want R2-D2 in C-3PO's body.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I mean, a humanoid robot would be better than R2-D2 and C-3PO combined times 10.
Yeah.
So people often talk about sort of eliminating poverty and that kind of thing, but really how long have they been talking about that? There's lots of talk, there's lots of NGOs sort of trying to do these things, but really not succeeding, and the evidence speaks for itself. But AI and humanoid robots will actually eliminate poverty. And Tesla won't be the only one that makes them. I think Tesla will pioneer this, but there will be many other companies that make humanoid robots. But there is only basically one way to make everyone wealthy, and that is AI and robotics.
And we can't talk about robotics without AI factories. And yesterday was such a historic day for the two nations, but also for all of us, where we celebrate the AI strategic partnership with the U.S., signed, witnessed by the Honorable President and His Royal Highness, about how we are committing our capital, energy, land to energize the AI U.S. ecosystem, to be able to build inference node, training nodes, and to be the most AI-enabled nation. With that announcement, tell me what's next in AI factories, Jensen?
There's a beautiful story about how Saudi Arabia is building AI refineries and now building AI or oil refineries to AI factories.
I love that.
I've said that AI is an infrastructure, and the reason for that, of course, we understand AI from the perspective of the technology and how it's revolutionizing every industry. Digital intelligence, of course, has applications into every field. And so it's going to be used by every company, every industry, every country. In that way, it's foundational, and therefore it's part of infrastructure. What is new about AI from a computer science perspective is that the way computing was done in the past was largely retrieval-based computing. Mm-hmm. Somebody typed in a story, or somebody created a piece of art, or came up with 4 versions of a digital ad, or it's all pre-built by somebody, which is then using a system to retrieve the appropriate version for you. It's a retrieval-based computing model. Hadoop and many of the frameworks and operating systems of the past, all designed to retrieve the appropriate information for you. But today, software is going to be generated in real time. It's generative. Based on the context, based on the circumstance, based on who you are, based on the problem you asked it, based on your prompt, it will generate unique content for you. Every single time for everybody, it's unique. When you use Grok, every time you use it is different.
We
Just
all
based
love
on
Grok.
based on the prompt that you give it and based on the circumstance. And so therefore, it used to be retrieval based. Today it's generative. And if it's generative, then and every time is different, then you need AI factories all over the world to generate the content in real time, which is the reason why you need AI factories. And this is a unique way of doing computation, but the benefit, of course, is that everything isn't preconceived and pre-documented, and it's contextually sensible and therefore intelligent.
So AI factories and robotics, and we heard it yesterday from His Royal Highness, his vision, how to augment our workforce with roughly tens of millions of robotics to be able to infuse the next wave of productivity and progress. But this scares a lot of folks here when it comes to the future of jobs. So let's hear about your thoughts, Elon and Jensen, on that.
Sure. Well, if you say like in the long term, where will things end up? Long term, I don't know what long term is. Maybe it's 10, 20 years or something like that. For me, that's long term. My prediction is that work will be optional.
Optional.
Optional. So.
We'll take that.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be like playing sports or a video game or something like that. If you want to work, in the same way, like you can go to the store and just buy some vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your backyard. It's much harder to grow vegetables in your backyard, but some people still do it because they like growing vegetables. That will be what work is like, optional. Now, between now and then, there's actually a lot of work to get to that point. Mm-hmm. I always recommend people read Ian Banks' culture books to get a sense for what a probable positive AI future is like. And interestingly, in those books, money is doesn't exist. It's kind of interesting. And my guess is, if you go out long enough, assuming there's a continued improvement in AI and robotics, which seems likely, the money will stop being relevant at some point in the future. Now, there will still be constraints on power, like electricity and mass. The fundamental physics elements will still be constraints. But I think at some point, currency becomes irrelevant.
Jensen, any thoughts?
By the way, the NVIDIA earnings call is later today.
And by the way, since currency is relevant.
Cheers.
Elon just wants to share with you some breaking news. The two of us would like to share some breaking news. Let's see. I would say there's different horizons you could look at. Everybody's jobs will be different. I think that's for sure. How the students learn will be different. How people do their work will be different, obviously, because a lot of the things that we do mundanely or arduously or very difficultly are going to be done very simply. And so we're going to be more productive from that sense. One of the things that I will say is that for most people or a company, if your life becomes more productive, and if the things that you're doing with great difficulty become simpler, it is very likely, because you have so many ideas, you'll have more time to go pursue things. It is my guess that Elon will be busier as a result of AI. I'm going to be busier as a result of AI. And the reason for that is because we have so many ideas we want to pursue, so many things that we still have in our backlog inside our company that we can go pursue. If we were more productive, we can get to those things faster. And so in the near term, I would say that there's every evidence that we will be more productive and yet still be busier because we have so many ideas. One thing that I will say, give you some evidence, is that, and I was just telling Elon about this earlier, radiology, for example, has largely been converted to AI-driven radiology, and there's some really great companies doing that. And the surprising thing is the prediction that all radiologists would be the first jobs to go was exactly the opposite. The trend shows that there are more radiologists being hired now as a result of AI. And the reason for that, if you take a step back, it's because the goal of a radiologist is not to study the images. The goal of a radiologist is to diagnose a disease. Now the studying of the images became so productive, they could study more images, study more modalities, spend more time with the patients. And as a result, they were actually accepting more patients. We're doing more radiology all around the world. We're doing a better job with diagnosing disease. And so that's kind of the near-term outcome of AI and productivity. And we'll see what happens long term. You know, when currency doesn't matter anymore, just let me know right before.
You'll see it coming. You'll see it coming.
We text often, so just
yeah, we do.
Yeah, just text it out. Yeah, let me know.
I kind of agree with both of you, because if you look at every technological trend, every general purpose technology has been net new positive for the globe, for humanity, and so forth. And let me share with you two case studies.
And Your Excellency, I think it's precisely the reason. The reason for that is because all the great ideas from innovators like Elon, that you have so many good ideas that
and
AI,
Jensen as well.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So let me share with you two stories from two Saudi innovators in collaboration with a lot of the great work that NVIDIA does, that Grok does. One is Professor Omar Yagi. All right. Let me say that again. One is Professor Omar Yagi, who is...
I might need to move the mic.
All right.
Hey, come on, we'll share this one.
All right. So now,
get close.
Let's try this one more time. So one of them is Professor Omar Yagi, who's the first American Saudi to win a Nobel Prize in creating new chemistry. And the way he has done that, he has leveraged your AI accelerators and models like Grok to be able to create new chemistry when it comes to metal organic frameworks. Those are metal ions that are positively charged with organic linkers to be able to effectively create a sponge with 0.33 nanometers pores to capture water from air and also to capture carbon dioxide. The second story has also to do with AI accelerated by NVIDIA and with models like Grok, which is nanopalm, which is effectively creating a nanorobot 500 nanometers by 1,000 nanometers to be able to do gene editing, leveraging the CRISPR technology to take out sickle cell disease. Now, in both these instances, they originated 20 years ago in research, but AI was able to really accelerate the outcomes and the outputs such that we can move into new value pools. So I think with every technological trend, humanity is going to always manage to shift to new value pools when it comes to workforce and productivity. But we have some great announcements to talk about here today. Let's begin with you, Elon, the things that we're doing with XAI.
Yeah, we're excited to announce that we're doing a 500 megawatt. I mean, yeah, 500. Sorry.
500 megawatt.
500 megawatt. Yeah.
We're doing 500. We're doing 500 megawatts.
Sorry,
Not
this.
Quite, yeah.
Yeah. No, the 500 gigawatt one will have to wait. That'll be $8 bazillion trillion.
Stop that.
So yeah, we're doing XAI, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are doing a
Humane 500 megawatts, starting with 50 megawatts phase one, and we're doing it with NVIDIA.
Yes.
Congratulations to the Humane team, to Tarek and team, such a fantastic job. Jensen, I think we're also doing some great announcements this week.
We are? We're announcing all kinds of things. Our partnership with Humane is going incredibly well. First of all, we work together to get this company started and off the ground, and just got an incredible customer with Elon. Could you imagine a startup company, approximately $0 billion in revenues, now going to build a data center for Elon? 500 megawatts is gigantic. This company is off the charts right away. In addition to that, we're working AWS, as you know, is also
Congratulations to the Humane team with AWS, starting with 100 megawatts with a gigawatt ambition and counting.
So AWS is also coming to Humane. We're working with Humane on Omniverse digital twins. As you know, that AI is not just, just agentic AI and chatbots and cognitive AI is incredibly important to the world. But AI applies to everything, chemicals and proteins and genes and physics and fluid dynamics and particles and, of course, robotics and activation. And we created this world called Omniverse where robots can learn how to be good robots. And it's physically based, it obeys the laws of physics, and so robots can learn in these environments. And we're working with Humane to apply Omniverse to all kinds of digital factories and robotics and warehouses and things like that. And so that's another. We're also working in Saudi Arabia to build supercomputers to simulate quantum computers and using our computers to be the controller and the error correction, quantum error correction, requires an enormous amount of computation. And so we're doing a lot of great work there too. So a big partnership with Humane. They're off the charts, off the ground and off the charts at the same time.
This is how we walk the talk in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in partnership with the U.S. Yesterday, the President and His Royal Highness announced the AI Strategic Framework and Partnership. Today, we're going big with Elon and Jensen. So thank you for those opportunities. Now, they told me I have time for 2 last questions. So last night at the dinner, I got a number of questions because it seems that the schedule leaked. And everybody was giving me hints about the last 2 questions I'm going to do. So the first one was for you, Elon. And there's a big one for you, Jensen, so prepare for that one. AI in space, is that possible?
Yes. If civilization continues, which it probably will, then AI in space is inevitable. You know, I always have to preface that, you know. We shouldn't take civilization for granted. We need to make sure to take care to ensure that civilization has an upward arc. I mean, any student of history knows that civilization does not always have an upward arc, and in fact, civilizations have life cycles. So hopefully we are in a strong upward arc. I think we are for now, but we don't want to take that for granted or be complacent. But the way to think of AI in space is that in order to achieve any meaningful percentage of a Kardashev 2 scale civilization, where you're using even a millionth of the sun's energy, you must have solar-powered AI satellites in deep space. So that once you realize, once you think in terms of a Kardashev 2 scale civilization, which is what percentage of the sun's energy are you turning into useful work, then it becomes obvious that space is overwhelmingly what matters. Overwhelmingly, the sun only receives roughly 1/2 billionth of the Earth only receives roughly 1/2 billionth of the sun's energy. So if you want to have something that is, say, 1,000,000 times more energy than Earth could possibly produce, you must go into space. So this is where it's kind of handy to have a space company, I guess. Sell the book.
Easier to cool chips in space, too.
Yes.
Easier to cool chips in space. Yeah.
Yes, there's definitely no water in space, so you're going to have to do something that doesn't involve water.
Just hang out.
Well, you just got to radiate.
That's right.
So my estimate is that actually that the cost of electricity the cost effectiveness of AI in space will be overwhelmingly better than AI on the ground. So far, long before you exhaust potential energy sources on Earth, long before, meaning like I think even perhaps in the 4 or 5 year time frame, the lowest cost way to do AI compute will be with solar-powered AI satellites. So I'd say not more than 5 years from now.
Wow. And just look at the supercomputers we're building together. Let's say each one of the racks is 2 tons. Out of that 2 tons, 1.95 of it is probably for cooling.
Right.
Just imagine how tiny that little supercomputer is, right? Each one of these GB300 racks will just be a little tiny thing.
And just electricity generation is already becoming a challenge. So if you start doing any kind of scaling for both electricity generation and cooling, you realize, okay, space is incredibly compelling. So, like, let's say you wanted to do, I don't know, 200 or 300 gigawatts per year of AI compute. It's very difficult to do that on Earth. The U.S. average electricity usage, last time I checked, was around 460 gigawatts per year average usage. So something like, say, if you're doing 300 gigawatts a year, that would be like 2/3 of U.S. electricity production per year. There's no way you're building power plants at that level. And then if you take it up to, say, 1 terawatt per year, impossible. Like, you have to do that in space. There just is no way to do 1 terawatt per year on Earth. And in space, you've got continuous solar. You've got you actually don't need batteries because it's always sunny in space.
That's right, exactly.
And the solar panels actually become cheaper because you don't need glass or framing, and the cooling is just radiative. So that's why I think
that's the dream.
Yes,
that's the dream.
So Jensen, everybody last night was asking me, and I'm mindful it's earnings call for you today. So I'm going to say this delicately. Everybody has been asking me to ask you, are we going to have an AI bubble?
That's the last question. All right, no. All right, let me just tell you what we see. Okay, so I think it's really important when you look at what's happening around the world and go back to first principles of what's happening in computer science and computing. There are 3 things that's happening. The first thing is that we all know that Moore's law has run its course, and the amount of demand for computing versus the amount of computation we can get out of general purpose computing is really challenging. And so the world's been moving to accelerated computing for some time. We've been pushing this now for over 20 years. Let me give you one statistic. I was just at supercomputing. 6 years ago, CPUs were 90% of the world's supercomputers, top 500 supercomputers. 6 years ago. This year, less than 15%. Went from 90% to 10%, and meanwhile, accelerated computing went from the other way, 10% to now 90%. Okay, so you're seeing that inflection point, the transition in high-performance computing from general-purpose computing to accelerated computing. Well, one of the most intensive computation things that the world does in cloud is data processing. Several $100 billion of computation is done on just raw data processing. It has nothing to do with AI. Just SQL processing, data frames, everybody's names, address, their sex, their age, where they live, how much money they make. All of that sits into a data frame, and that data frame drives the world today, whether it's in banking or whether it's in credit cards or, of course, e-commerce and everything from ad recommendation. And everything is driven off of that data frame. That data frame costs hundreds of billions of dollars to go compute. And so that's the number one thing, end of Moore's law. The second thing is generative AI. The most important application of the last 15 years is called REXs, recommender systems. How do we know what information to recommend to us in a social feed? How do you know what ad to recommend to somebody, what book to recommend, what movie to recommend? The internet is so gigantic without a recommender system that a little tiny phone of us will have no chance of ever seeing the right information. That REXs is the engine of the internet today. That's going generative AI It used to be running on CPUs, now it runs on GPUs. Which then says the third thing, if you just look at those two applications, many of the internet companies can build an enormous number of GPU supercomputers just doing that. Of course, then it creates the third opportunity on top of it, which is agentic AI. This is Grok, and this is OpenAI, this is Anthropic, this is Gemini. Agentic AI sits on top of that. But don't forget to think about what is happening underneath what everybody sees as AI today. There's a whole movement of computing from general purpose computing to accelerated computing. And that, if you take that into consideration, you'll come to the conclusion that, in fact, what is left over to fuel that revolutionary agentic AI is not only substantially less than you thought, and all of it justified.
Well, I was just informed by the team that my boss and your bosses is going to talk next, the Honorable President and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, and hence we ran out of time. But in essence, this is so much love for you, Elon and Jensen. But this, in essence, is a 92 alliance that shifted from energy to digital to the intelligence age, powered by pioneers such as Elon and Jensen, to serve humanity and create on a net new basis new economies, new jobs, and a better future for humanity, powered by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United States. Thank you for a lifetime partnership and friendship. Thank you, Elon. Thank you, Jensen.
Thank you.
All right.
The money that's being thrown around is eye-watering. It's very much like a gold rush.
Of the 7 million people who are unemployed in this country, 1 million of them are right here in California. But at the same time, we're seeing this boom of AI jobs. How do you reconcile the two?
It is just that. It is two separate economies. And that's why a lot of young people, even talented young people, are thinking, I don't know if I can make it here in the Bay Area.
Let's take you beyond the headlines to the front lines with our team of journalists to explain how we find the stories and answers you're looking for. It's not enough to know what happened, but why? Because when you're searching for the truth, there's always a backstory.
Just for a second, think about all the different kinds of work that need to get done in an office. Okay, got it? Well, as much as 70% of those tasks are likely to become automated just within the next 5 years, thanks to AI. That's according to one industry estimate. Artificial intelligence is not only reshaping the workplace, but also California's economy. And while some have been lucky enough to ride the AI boom, others have already seen their livelihoods go bust. So what does this mean for your ability to financially make it in the Golden State? And what does it have to do with RoboCop? I caught up with our business and tech reporter, Scott Budman, to get the backstory. How would you describe the vibe right now in Silicon Valley?
It is all about AI. It feels very much like a bubble. We've been through these before. They're very exciting. The money that's being thrown around is eye-watering. We've seen that before. It's very much like a gold rush. Very much like a gold rush.
Okay, so I want to throw some numbers out at you. Of the 7 million people who are unemployed in this country, 1 million of them are right here in California. But at the same time, we're seeing this boom of AI jobs. How do you reconcile the two?
It is just that. It is two separate economies. There is a boom in AI jobs. And if you have AI skills, whether you're coming out of college with them or already working with them, you are in a position to make more money than in any time in your life and your career. However, if you don't have AI skills, your job is in jeopardy, your future is cloudy, and that's where the rest of California's economy comes in. The overall economy is struggling a bit. We have a slowdown. We have Elon Musk buying Twitter and cutting 75% of the staff, and say what you will about Twitter, now X, it's still up and running. That was a very interesting and dangerous message to tell CEOs across California and across tech. You can trim the sails of your company and still function and still make money and still work.
Okay, so it's rarely ever just one thing. So give us a sense, what are the factors right now contributing to having such a high unemployment rate?
I mean, you've got a lot of cutbacks, a lot of efficiency. You have a stock market telling companies, tech and otherwise, if you cut costs, we will boost your share value. Good news for investors, bad news for employers. You're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing that even from some companies that are making trillions of dollars. Meta cut way back and saw its stock price go from 90 to 700 in a couple of years. We've seen companies say, we're going to please investors at the expense and at the cost of a larger workforce. And so you really have to be in the right place as an employee right now, and that's how you get a high unemployment rate.
Okay, so you mentioned we've seen something like this before. Of course, in the 90s, we had the internet startups, and you had the surge of other tech startups, Facebook, Google, Airbnb in the 2010s. Oftentimes when there's a boom, there's a bust.
Yes.
Is that what we're going to see?
I mean, inevitably, not all these companies are going to succeed. That's never happened. We've seen booms turn into good times. Even the dot-com boom, where so many companies didn't succeed and were part of a bubble, and when that bubble popped, we saw tens of thousands of jobs lost just like that. But we got the internet out of it, and we got the iPhone out of it, and we got apps out of it, and we got Google, and like you say, Airbnb. Changes to our lives that are with us to this day came from the mid and late 90s. That's a pretty decent legacy, even though a lot of people had to sort of reconfigure their career and get back into the workforce. It's very likely that this will happen. Not all of these AI startups that are having amazing valuations are going to even succeed, not to mention go public and justify those valuations to investors. But what we'll get out of it, that we don't know. But AI seems to be changing the way a lot of businesses operate, even schools operate. We have entire majors at colleges in AI. And so this is going to be here to stay. The question is, in what way and just how big is it really going to be?
Okay, so if you have the kind of tech skill set that's putting you in high demand of these AI jobs right now, I mean, salary-wise, Scott, give us a sense. I mean, what are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about some basic salaries. Tech companies often pay salaries that are a little lower because there is back-end promise of wealth. You have stock options, and those stock options are really what fuel Silicon Valley's wealth in terms of I can buy a $3 million home, not because necessarily of the salary I make at a tech company, but I can buy that home because when my company goes public, I can cash in those options and have vast wealth. And that's traditionally what we've seen. Now, AI, we have seen a sliver of this where the salaries are really like NBA salaries. They're incredible. And that's because we have these startups like OpenAI, Anthropic, that are paying decent money, but boy, do they have back-end wealth promise. One day they'll either be bought for hundreds of billions of dollars or they'll go public at those valuations. The big companies like Microsoft and Meta especially, you see Mark Zuckerberg trying to cherry pick employees from these startups. He has to promise them gigantic money because Meta is already public, and very successfully so. But if you start now, you're probably not going to get rich off the stock. So he's offering $100 million bonuses over 3 or 4 years to come to work for the established company. And that can be enticing for several reasons. One, you're getting a giant salary and giant money, but B, your company is going to be around for years and years and years, so there's more stability instead of wondering, am I going to be at the startup that makes it, or am I going to be at the startup that ultimately does not make it?
So to connect the dots for people, I mean, these are the same people that are living in communities with school teachers,
yes,
other blue-collar workers going to the same grocery stores, competing for the same daycare spots.
Yeah.
What is that doing then?
It does raise the prices of neighborhoods. I mean, I live in a very basic neighborhood in the South Bay. I remember we had a Google family. After a while, they pretty much had to move out. Like, it was just too basic of a neighborhood. They went and got a much bigger place. And it's raising the prices of homes, even basic homes, to a level we have not seen before. And that's simply because there is this section of wealth being created by tech companies, by stock options, that dwarfs everything else that we've ever seen before. And that's why a lot of young people, even talented young people, are thinking, I don't know if I can make it here in the Bay Area unless I have those AI skills. Because for their adult life, say the past 4, 5, 6, 7 years, that's been the hot ticket.
What is sort of the end game here? I mean, how do we right-size the ship?
My worry about that long game is that those young, talented people say, I have to go somewhere else, whether it's Boston or Austin, Texas, or Florida, because no matter what your political beliefs, there's a place for you where you can afford housing. And the dream of Silicon Valley was to get those people here, and not just from America, but from India, from China, from Israel, from the UK, from Ireland. This is the default. Now we're telling people from all over the world, you have to have so much money if you want to do that American dream, have a family thing here, and start the company that creates all those jobs. And that's a rough 1-2 punch unless you already have that money. And my worry is that those young people will say, the default is no longer Silicon Valley. It's now somewhere else where I can afford to start a family, a very basic human want.
So right now across America, the average mortgage is about $2,500 a month. In San Jose, it's more than 11,000.
Yeah.
How do you compete?
You really can't. If the average home costs $2 million, the average home costs $2 million, Begad, that means we're asking of you, a young person or a young couple, a young family, to come up with, as a 20% down payment, $400,000, a very intimidating amount of money to have and put towards the house, and the privilege of paying that $11,000 a month mortgage. So one gigantically intimidating amount of money in order to pay another one every month. And, do the math. It's a really, really hard thing to fathom if you're just now even saying, I've got a good salary. The next logical step would be to buy a home.
Let's talk about sort of the trickle-down impact to San Francisco, the look and the feel. We're in a city that used to have the nation's lowest office vacancy rate. Just 4% of office space was available.
Yeah.
The pandemic happened, and while things have improved a little bit, 35% of office space in downtown San Francisco is still sitting empty. Yet we're in the midst of this AI hiring boom. Do you think that may help things, or is much of this still going to continue to be sort of get to work remotely?
Yeah, here's the thing. It's already helped things a lot. That vacancy rate would be much higher if it weren't for the AI boom, because a lot of the AI talent went to startups in San Francisco. They're flush with venture cash, Begad, and so they can afford whatever office space in San Francisco they want. And they can afford, obviously, these employees to bring in. So that vacancy rate would be much higher if it wasn't for the AI boom. That said, it's still high. The great experiment of let's see if tech companies can have people work from home kind of worked a lot better than people thought, way better than people thought. Numbers were met. Deliveries still went on time. Stock prices stayed high, in fact, hitting some records during the actual lockdown phase of the pandemic. And it turned out, as long as you had your Peloton and your Netflix and your, Instacart, you could pretty much live just fine. And then all of a sudden it was like the Salesforces and the Apple saying, wait a minute, we didn't spend billions of dollars on these gigantic, incredible corporate headquarters so you could be at home on your Peloton. We want you back. And that's been a tough push-pull kind of thing, because the employees have a really good point when they say the bottom lines were still good when we were at home, helping our children, not having to worry so much about childcare, not having to commute in traffic as long, being able to spend more time with our spouses and our families. And aren't those great things in the work-life balance of it all?
Is part of the recruitment process still sort of selling the lifestyle of being in big tech? We have, hockey tables that you can play with in your lunchtime. We're going to do your dry cleaning. Or is it now, you should be lucky that you're working for us and be prepared to work a lot of hours?
I think it's a combination of all of those things. You are expected to work a lot of hours. It really is demanding. It's always been demanding. That said, there are meals, there is dry cleaning, there are volleyball courts, there's fitness centers. The idea that you can make your life around your tech campus is still there, and it never really went away. They want you there, and they want you there for a long time, and they want you interacting with your fellow smart, creative people to come up with the next big thing.
Obviously, other tech hubs across the country, Austin, New York City, but it seems like California is laying out the biggest welcome mat so far.
Yes, the most AI jobs are in California, not surprisingly. The most AI graduates are coming out of schools in California. Also, perhaps not surprisingly. But right, if you go to DC, people are talking about it. If you go to Texas, people are talking about it. If you go to Boston, they're talking about that, and biotech. You know, a lot of places right now are saying, how can we integrate this technology that seems to be coming at us like a train down the track? We have to figure out a way to put it in. And it's so interesting now that every company is talking about, well, we do AI. What does that mean? Sometimes it seems like they don't yet know, but they feel the need to make it part of what they do. And that's why you have colleges giving AI majors. That's why you have these Coursera's and these companies that are offering AI classes to those of us who are already long out of college. But to say this is what you need to know, at least in a fairly basic sense, if you want to be able to tell your boss, hey, I get this, I can be part of this, I understand this, so don't just eliminate my job. Let me be part of the growth that this could be, apparently. But again, we don't yet know what that is, but we know it's going to be around for a while, and we know that everybody is talking about it, and venture capitalists who have been quiet for years are now throwing with both hands money into this technology. But the AI concerns are still very big, and I don't just mean AI might take our job. I mean, you know, we are of a generation that grew up watching RoboCop, for example, which kind of pre-told us about AI and, you know, rogue machines, corporate greed. And by the way, it said, this is in the mid-'80s, Detroit is going to go bankrupt. It was right about a lot of things in this one movie, which sort of presaged a time of not what our parents had, which was post-Watergate mistrust of government, but what we grew up with, a mistrust of the job world, of the greed world. It was also right before the big crash of '87, RoboCop. So not to bring everything back to this one movie, but it was oddly prescient. And when you grow up with that view, it doesn't really surprise you to see the Occupy Wall Street of it all, the Zoran Mamdani of it all, the idea that, wait a minute, corporations have really been about themselves and not about you, the worker or even the resident of the town. And there's still that mistrust that AI has to somehow get over before I think people are willing to do more than just ask ChatGPT a question. And so the people who are running these companies are saying, you know, Mark Zuckerberg talking about super intelligence. This is somehow going to make your life better. And people are saying, wait a minute, my job is at risk. I'm priced out of the place I love and want to live. It's harder to feed my family because those who do make this much money are leading to inflation. Once again, we have this, are we able to even trust these big tech corporations? And so AI is successful in some ways, but in another way, it's sort of bringing back that mistrust. And do we even believe this going forward?
And from an economic perspective, for sort of the good of the community at large, even those not in the AI space, is that going to continue to benefit those in California with the continued